virtual racing school was developed to provide support.
Howdy, 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 everybody, and welcome to the iRacing Formula 3.5 Challenge here at Sebring International Raceway. I'm Austin Knight. I'm joined by Alessandro Dalladone with Marco Barbonera in the production booth, and you're here live from Sebring on this beautiful, beautiful afternoon here in southern Florida. Sebring's always fun for sports car racing, but Formula racing, oh, that's another kind of fun. Alessandro, how you feeling? How you looking forward to this race?
Hello. Issue with the mic, sorry. Live stream. Definitely very interesting track. I'm looking forward to see some bouncy F3s around Sebring. We are already in qualifying, and I'm seeing already these drivers. It's definitely going to be a very, very interesting race.
Sebring's not a usual track for the Formula 3.5s, as the bumpiness on these cars as it heads through Sunset Bend. Paul Ilbrink's car just bouncing up and down. Number one on Paul Ilbrink this time by, as Tim Delau's taking another off week. He's decided to avoid all the chaotic rounds like Bathurst and Sebring, which it understandably, because the Formula 3.5 is known as a kangaroo sometimes whenever it hits the curb. It will bounce up, and if it gets on 2 feet, it keeps bouncing more and more again. Looking like you're riding on top of a pogo stick. Let's ride on board Paul Ilbrink and just watch this suspension move. So we head into the breaks in a hotel. And it's this tarmac area, the layered concrete that is providing most of the bumps here. And you know, in Sebring, they say respect the bumps, but in these Formula cars, you really have to respect the bumps, because any bump that just catches you out wrong and you don't have a car that's set up for these bumps, it's going to be very hard, because even a small curb strike in a Formula 3.5 car we've seen do absolute damage. So these guys are riding on well, ice skates today.
Absolutely. You need to avoid any curb. You have just a few curbs that you can actually hit. These cars are very, very stiff, so you want absolutely to avoid, especially the curves in the opening section, as we are still on Paul Ilbrink, who is almost about to finish the lap. We have only the last corner, Sunset Bend, and then we will see if he's gonna go in pole position, as we start to have the first few times posted today. Robert Tarton is momentarily the leader with 1:43.423. Samborski 2/10 behind, as we are now on board with Fabio Do Carmo, the driver from Brazil, number 3, who is about to finish his lap, and he's gonna go in P10, 1.4 seconds, but maybe some drivers will post faster lap times towards the second lap, which sometimes is faster. Obviously, this is a track where tire will be definitely more of an issue compared to other tracks, Austin.
Yeah, the up and down movement of lateral forces of these cars onto those tires definitely going to be tearing them up. So the earlier part of this race, don't expect a lot of craziness, and especially later on this race, expect drivers to be struggling. We might see a lot of wiggling of tires as qualifying still goes on here as we ride on board with James J. Peacer, number 2, and I believe the first time he's been the number 2 car here in the Formula 3.5 Challenge.
Oh yeah, definitely. There are not a lot of drivers with more than 6,000 I rating, as we see Pinsker move to P7.
Steve Honan comes across the line, does not improve. Samborski improves to a 1:43.514, 900ths of a second behind Robert Tarleton. Paul Ilbrink comes across the line, jumps up into third place with a 1:43.773. Phil Reed comes across the line. He jumps up into 5th place.
Yeah, definitely. Second laps coming in right now with Groom also moving up to 6th place. Now Omar Ba, you see a purple in the first sector and some decent sector in the middle portion of the lap. So he might be improving a little bit also in
He's
this
been improving every
second lap.
lap, but I don't think his relative is going to be as close as we think it is. It's just his personal improvements. It's currently showing about 7/10ths back behind Robert Tarleton with this improvement. So I'm expecting this will jump him up into 9th place as he's come across the line. Omar Baha jumps up into 5th place.
Yeah, great last few sectors for Omar
Yeah,
Ba.
fantastic seconds.
Absolutely. Let's see if we have still a few drivers on track. We have James Pinsker.
Josh Clogg is on his last lap. He's the last driver on the last lap, actually.
We might have still a bit of shuffling going on in this last minute of qualifying. You saw how much the car is unstable through the sunset bend as James Pinsker improves and moves up to 6th.
And Clogg comes across the line, and we're going to be ending qualifying immediately because all 17 drivers have done their 2 qualifying laps, which I believe is the first time I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah, it doesn't
Where
happen really often, eh?
Where they actually beat out the timer and everyone does it.
Well, very tight qualifying, absolutely. Has been an interesting qualifying with the first drivers, at least the top 10 are super close, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this will shape also the racing, because obviously if we have so many drivers a similar pace, when you build some gaps early on, then it will be extremely difficult to close them in the second part of the race.
Well, here is our racing grid. Robert Tarleton starts up on pole, followed by Edward Samborski starting side by side. It's an American front row here in Sebring. See if they can hold on during the race. Paul Ilbrink starts out right behind him, followed by Steve Honan, Omar Baja, James J. Pinsker, Fabio DeCarmo, Phil Reed, Luke Groom, Jason Henrique, Alessandro Roccatello, Shane Russell in 12th. They're followed by Theodore Burns, Jamie Bird, James Burns. The Burns are all in a group, followed by Dave Martin and Josh Clogg at the end of this 17-car grid. And at these 17 cars, still, we might not have a bunch of the normal faces that we sometimes see here, but this iRating, this strength of field, is still relatively high. It's still at 4.4K.
Absolutely, strength of field is extremely high. I just came off an IMSA race in GT, and SOF, although we had 320 people registered for the race 1 hour ago, more or less it was lower than this. So it's definitely a remarkable stat, and this showcase
Just got to show you on how competitive the Formula 3.5 community is, and how dominant, well, just how high prestigious this SOF race is. The highest SOF weekly race held on iRacing is in the Formula 3.5 category. As the 5 red lights are coming on, it's time to let them go racing here at Sebring. Great start by Robert Tarleton, gets off the line. Paul Ilbrink looks down to the inside of Samborski as they race 2 wide heading into turns 1. Tarleton, Samborski, Ilbrink, and Honan and Baja. Your top 5. Baja being held down to the inside. He's got James J. Pinsker looking on to the outside as they head into his first sector. We got a massive crash. Baja is around. James J. Pinsker is around.
Trouble. This is always a trouble spot at the start of the race when everybody has to go through side by side, as we are now still watching the lead group with the Tarleton, Samborski, and Ilbrink all following each other, as we have some more action in the
Phil Reed and Luke Groom off. Phil Reed spun on entry, and Luke Groom just misses braking point trying to avoid it. He comes back on track, gets passed by Omar Baja, and that first instant was Omar Baja down to the inside of James A. Pinsker, was just closed off. Jason Henrique is very slow as he gets overtaken by No, Jesse Enrique gets past Theodore Burns. Sorry about that. But up at front is Charlton, Samborski, and Ilbrink, your top three.
Yeah, it's always very hectic with all these passes at the start. It's a very tough track for the drivers, especially when you are so close together with the cold tires, because obviously cold tires and these huge bumps do not help each other.
Yeah, bumps do not help. We got a car off in the background. That's Luke Groom.
A day to forget for Luke Groom. Definitely, he's gonna have a hard time to keep on going, but even if he does, it will be so far better. This race will be completely at the back for today, as Tartan is leading our first lap, and we have even more side-by-side racing between Enrique and Burns.
Oh, that's nicely held. And oh, a crossover move by Jason Enrique. We got a car around. That's Dave Martin.
Always cold tires catching out our drivers, no matter what experience you have in this car, and it's always so tough to control this car on this track, especially with cold tires, as Tartan and Samborski are starting to build a little gap to Paul Ilbrink in third place, but as we know from last week at Watkins Glen, also the strategy of DRS might come into place. We will see. Definitely it's not gonna be so important as it was in the state of New York last week, but still, you know how much effect it has on the car.
Yes, definitely. The DRS is not going to be, well, it is still going to be strong, but it's not a drafting track like it was at Watkins Glen. It's more of a state of attrition and keep your car planted and maximizing your speed while also avoiding these dangerous bumps. But they do have that long back straight that they're in right now and a good straight up the front stretch to try to make some drafting battles, but it's really just sticking your nose in there and using that straight to catch you up and might go for a move into these corners like we're seeing Jamie Byrne go for right now on James Byrne.
Yeah, Rocatello also was around the outside, probably just try to stick to around the outside to have more speed, as Byrne is looking to pass the Italian driver, but there's nowhere to go. You can't go side by side through there. It's very, very twitchy already. When you are doing by yourself, going side by side, you're gonna lose a lot of time. The midfield is very, very tight. You can see more or less all the drivers are still together, from Enrique to Omar Ba in 12th place. So we are set for a great day, Austin.
Yeah, we are definitely set up for a great day as Rocatello is chased by Byrne to Byrne. The Burns come after Jamie and James. And not only to confuse us more, they're actually running exactly the same paint. It's just Jamie is running the yellow wheels and James is running the red wheels. That's how you tell these two apart.
Yeah, definitely very interesting selection, and we are always happy to see them both in these races, as obviously some tracks are not as populated by the best drivers, as team, for example, elected not to take part in this race. Phil Wright goes to the inside and passes Josh Clogg for 13th place.
Phil Reed made a great move heading into there. Just found the inside of Josh Clogg and well, picked it apart very beautifully. Rocatello is still followed by the Burns. As this is James just sitting behind Jamie. Jamie getting a very nasty bump coming out of Sunset. Rocatello is all over the back of Shane Russell. Here comes Rocatello heading into turn one. Side by side they go. Alessandro Rocatello down the inside, side by side. Rocatello trying to hold it off the exit, but Theodore, Shane Russell just has the speed off the exit. He's going to swing it around to the outside to hold that off. Now Rocatello and Jamie Byrne are together.
Amazing battle for 8th place. Did you see Shane Russell car pitching up on the bump and elevating slightly the wheel above the ground? It was incredible how the bumps can shape your car and
Ooh.
probably here Ba profit from a little mistake by
James.
James Byrne and moves up to 11. You always need to be careful with that names. It's so easy to invert
Yeah,
the two.
Jamie was stopping style of Alessandro Roccatello heading into hotel corner, and James just locked up behind him, and Omar Baha saw that lock and picked him apart right there. But yeah, these two guys, not only are similar names, actually brothers, similar paint schemes, similar numbers, similar everything except for the wheels. Even their I rating is similar.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
No!
Omar Ba is out of the race. Not a day to remember for the American driver. Let's catch a glimpse of the spin also from the outside camera, from our TV cameras. Too much
It's just,
mustard, those.
it's got me on it. I was about to say it. Too much mustard indeed. Back end spun it up and around he went. Looking at Samborski now trying to hold off Paul Ilbrink and chase down Robert Tarleton. But Tarleton, he's putting on a class act right now. 1.4 second lead already. 9 minutes into this race.
Yeah, incredible performance by Robert Tarleton. He's been so fast. You can see here for our lap time comparison with Samborski in second place. 7/10 on lap 3. Pretty similar lap time lap 4. This might be the difference of a DRS, but still opening such a big gap now. Samborski won't have the toe on the straight, so this is definitely a very good showcase by the American driver, as Samborski has still also to fend off from Paul Ilbrink, who is around 1 second behind. So it's still pretty close, but these tiny margins are so difficult to close, Austin.
That little patch of grass, you and I, we both know, and Marco knows as well, that patch of grass, especially sports car racing, and any sort of racing, is so scary when you get out there, because just get a wheel on that grass and put the pelts in the metal, and around you will go. As well, you and I both know when we were both doing the 12 hours of Sebring, and I crashed into practice about 3 times at that exact corner.
Absolutely, that's definitely not a very good corner for us. But let's don't talk about the 12 hour of Sebring. Otherwise, if Marco would have the power to speak today, he would tell us the great story of how he became a 12 hour of Sebring winner in the GT3. But we won't tell it again and again. So yeah, long story short, Mark won 12 hours of Sebring, being carried over by some random guy who drove for 9 hours. And 9 hours and a half.
But we will talk about our our attempt to defend that title.
Yeah. We are really proud to have tried, but unfortunately didn't work. But let's go back to something more important than that. We will have time to think about it in March next time. Jamie Byrne moving outside of Alessandro Roccatello. Still side by side, but it's so difficult to go side by side, especially on this track where the traction is very, very low. You have a nice choo-choo train behind the Nord Sim racing car of Alessandro Roccatello, with James Byrne, and Phil Reed.
Yeah, Phil Reed already looking on James, as Jamie is looking on Alessandro Roccatello. I feel like it's going to be a massive draft fight. James slides way out wide. Jamie slides way out wide, activates DRS as Phil Reed activates DRS. Phil's going to look down to the inside, heading into Sunset Corner, as well as Jamie's going to look down to the inside of Alessandro Roccatello. Side by side they go, 2 by 2 around Sunset Bend. And oh, James is very wide. Phil Reed makes that move, work on entry. Alessandro stays there, and Shane Russell is now being caught by these 4.
Yeah, and don't forget, right in the background, we can see James Pinsker coming back, and he's lapping around 1 second and a half per lap faster, because obviously these guys are fighting so hard. The lap time are definitely much slower, so Pinsker is definitely the first one here to think, ooh, great power slide by Reed, and he saved it, but he now has to fend off from James Byrne.
Ooh, Shane Russell way down the inside. Rockatel's going to try to look it around to the outside. Phil Reed defending onto the inside, stays ahead of James Bird. Side by side, they go off the exit. Shane Russell now stopping Rocketel, going side by side, almost about to go 3 wide. Was Jamie. Jamie's looking for it. Theodore getting very close to Alessandro Rocketello. He's going to send it down the inside. Rockatello's going to have to go a little bit wide. But Alessandro Rockatello is going to stay in 8th place.
Absolutely great racing. And we will have even more of that coming up. But I keep always an eye on Pinsker, because he had a rough opening for sure, but he can easily make up a lot of position now in this middle portion of the race. Having all these drivers in front, providing us with a great battle, even though up front we have a little bit of separation between all the drivers, as Samborski scores the fastest lap of the race. Right now we are 1:44.7. We have a great battle here.
Phil Reed now on Jamie. Reed's got him on the exit. Phil Reed is just carving up through this field. And now he's chasing on Shane Russell. Just look at the speed that Reed has through the mid-corner compared to everyone else. He's just... the way he's driving that car around here is just impressive.
Yeah, incredible. It's definitely very interesting to see how these drivers have developed their lap times in different ways. I feel like Shane Russell is a bit faster than these guys, but...
oh, there goes Phil.
yeah,
Russell had a bit of a lockup, and now Phil... oh my goodness. Russell
he gets a nice run.
Barely ahead of him. As they're heading into more corners, Russell and Reed pulling away from the Burns behind them. And here comes Reed. Round the outside, he's made his move side by side, going to try to hold it for that inside line and try to get him into this complex corners. Phil Reed, hard onto the brakes, sneaks his way up into 9th place.
Great pass. That's definitely not a portion of the track where you see a lot of passes. You have really to force your way through, as we have still more side-by-side racing with Byrne on the inside of Russell, looking on the inside.
Woof. Woof.
Russell.
I think Russell forgot to brake right there, or he was afraid of something, because Russell just went straight on into the wall. Took the widest line I've ever seen through Sunset Corner. As we look out at front, we got a battle for the lead between Robert Tarleton and Edward Samborski.
Yeah, Samborski gained more than 7/10 last time by, and managed to catch Tarleton, as now he's looking to find a way to pass through.
I think Tarleton might have to slow down, might have, but I'm not seeing anything that would indicate that he went off track though. But his last lap time was a 1:45.68, so something did happen to Tarleton last lap.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there might have been a little mistake. His pace obviously is not that slow, but Samborski is putting some very steady and consistent lap times. So little by little in the last few laps, I think he managed to get the gap even narrower and open a gap instead behind on Paul Hilbring. It's going to be interesting to see now if we have a bit of mind games like we have last week for the win, or if Samborski will try to find a way to get past start on and eventually try to pull away.
Yeah, we might definitely see some mind games here very soon, but Sebring's not about mind games. It's more about it's more about getting the fist out and good old fighting throughout the race as we're approaching halfway through here in the Formula 3.5 Challenge. Week 11 of Week 12, and pretty much the championship has been decided for Tim Delisle, who is enjoying his little off-week vacation after a crazy race at Watkins Glen, where he and Robert Charlton raced it out to the last lap, and then unfortunately on the last lap for Tim, just locked it up, took home second place, but Tim's has been dominating throughout this entire season. Got an ask from Taylor in the chat. If they win any prizes through this, besides exposure bucks and everything, not really. I do know iRacing does have a little, they do give you a little PDF that you can print out, saying that you're the season champion of your division and overall champion. So that's coveted, but
Participation credits.
yes, participation
I
credits. Yeah, $10. No, $8.
Yeah, I think $7 for this B-class race. So that's the only, let's say, prize drivers can get just for taking part on any race throughout the official calendar for 8 of the 12 weeks. As we are now looking for the battle at the battle of Fabio Ducarmo, Enrique fly past the Brazilian driver.
And Enrique sent that one down low. Fabio went on to the outside. Fabio's going to go for the speed off the exit and try to get him down to the front straight. Enrique defending down low. Fabio's going out on the outside. Enrique comes across the nose. Enrique is going to stay in 5th place ahead of Fabio Ducarmo. They battle it. They continue to battle it out right there. And Samborski has fallen down to 3rd. Something has happened to Edward Samborski.
Let's see the replay here.
Remember, because they're battling out for the lead. Oh no, he just messed up on the brakes. He saw that wiggle, and he took the old Sebring route.
Joker lap and slowdown for some odd reason for Samborski, and obviously now he's also behind Pauline, not what he wanted, as we are still watching the fight of P5, P6 between Jason Enrique and Fabio Ducarmo. These two drivers trying to pull away now Enrique after passing the Brazilian. And here instead we have Steve Onan. We haven't really seen him a lot during this race. The action has been always in front or behind him. He's now trying to get into the slipstream of Samborski. He's having a rough time in his middle portion of the race.
Yeah, but, and as they're following and trying to get back into strike distance as the race is kind of on a little bit of a roll, I want to say thank you. This race is brought to you by Virtual Racing School, the SDK live timing app, and Apex Racing Academy. Find out more about VRS, SDK, and ARA in the links in the description of this live stream, especially here on YouTube. So, yeah, big thanks to those guys. They help bring you these images live and present, well, help us present these races with what they bring, especially the best live timing software on iRacing, the SDK live timing app.
Absolutely. How can you not like these great graphics, these beautiful Formula 3.5 overlay? We miss this series also in real life. This is definitely amazing.
Yeah, the series graphics we like so much that we just completely took them. And Phil Reed sends it on Rockatello. A little bit of a switchback attempt by Rockatello. Rockatello looking down to the outside, now looking down to the inside, just dancing on that gearbox of Phil Reed. And Reed's not having any of it. He's just so quick in these corners.
Yeah, incredible quick as he sometimes just disappears on our screen. Phil Ride definitely making a lot of progress since we started to follow here at the back around James Byrne and Russell. Now in 8th place and trying to pull away from the Italian driver. The two Burns still racing together in tandem with doing a sandwich with Shane Russell in 11th. And Pinsker, I think he made a mistake because he fell back in 14th place and now he's quite behind. So not the day we were expecting from James Pinsker.
Definitely not today. Had that issue at the start with Omar Baja heading into turn number 2 where they both made a collision and ended up in the grass. It just started that downhill trend of today, and this is definitely one of those races that he wants to forget. Thankfully, Sebring is full of other opportunities, so if you stay in this race, the race might come to you slowly as he's already made up 3 spots, one from one retirement. But really, this race is pretty much over for James J. Peace here. As we're watching this battle for fifth between Fabio De Carmo and Jason Henrique. These two have been on top of the game here today. Both of them very competitive. Speaking of competitive, Byrne and Russell side by side. Russell trying to hold that down on the inside, but look at James Byrne round the outside and gets it right. Come on, you horns.
Great pass by James Byrne. Now 11th. Will try to track back his brother now. Trying to hunt down for a top 10. As we are now still on board with Enrique. Who has to fend off Fabio Do Carmo. Gets even closer and closer before turn 1, but not close enough to try to put this car on the inside. Great camera shot from the Carmo's car. You see how Enrique slightly moved towards the inside just to make it clear that the Carmo couldn't go past the airpin for trying maybe a late dive. You can see how clean these drivers are. You don't really see a lot of lockups, which are totally deadly on this tire model. Any sliding of the tires will give you another time to recover. Robert Arton in the lead, 3.5 seconds on Paul Hilbring, who inherited second place from Edward Samborski after a mistake of the American driver, as Do Carmo now makes his way past Enrique for 5th place. I think Enrique made a mistake because he suddenly dropped a few tenths from the Brazilian driver, as Samborski just set his fastest and the race fastest lap with a 1:44.6.
Yeah, after that small mistake, Samborski still wants to try to get up to Robert Charlton, try to fight for that lead, and he's not giving up at all, putting in that fastest lap of the race. And back to the battle between Jason Enrique and Fabio De Carmo.
Probably a mistake from Enrique. He was looking very, very tidy to the middle section, but he lost too much time in such a short matter of time. So it's definitely time to get the position back for the American driver, who doesn't want to lose the top 5.
Ooh, mistake by Baja heading into Hotel. Here he is on the underneath the bridge. Just lock up. No, it's just stay with me. Too much mustard heading in there.
Yeah, definitely a bit too hot entering the airpin, but he didn't take the Joker lap. He put it sideways and stopped it on track. But also for Omar Ba is not a great day.
Yeah, he was in that incident with James J. Paints at the start of this race. Had a good qualifying position too. He's down 8 spots from where he started. Samborski, another fastest lap of the race.
Very, very consistent driving by Samborski, apart from that little mistake that definitely will jeopardize his effort and don't give him the chance to contend for the win, because we are now 16 laps in of 21 and the gap is still 3 seconds from Tartan. So if Tartan keeps it clean, I don't think there will be any chance for the drivers behind. We will have, I think, instead, if Samborski can close a little bit the gap, a battle for second place, as Phil Ride and Rocatello are still swapping position after 15 seconds, or maybe some connection issues.
I remember Phil's been blinking in and out of existence for a while, but they are close enough to bring up the battle box with each other. But DiCarmo and Henrique are still the closest fight we have on track right now.
Yeah, absolutely. These two have been together for a long time, and after having the American in front for the first part of the race, now we have Fabio DiCarmo setting the pace and Jason Enrique trying to find a way to get past. Let's see if on the backstretch he can get a bit closer, but I think DiCarmo is a bit faster on the straight. The replay coming from Marco.
He's hit the grass on the oh, whoa! Wild tailspin, and he, I don't want to insult one of my favorite drivers ever, but he kept his foot down on it and spun around like Romain Grosjean at Barcelona.
Oh yeah, definitely very, very interesting way to spin. A bit of grass, and obviously the tire was a bit dirty, and in the end it went around.
I think that's just showing you on how much he's frustrated at himself for that.
Absolutely, 100%. Ooh! Oh boy.
Henrique with a snap oversteer. And I think we're starting to see the tires start to lose their grip. I feel like these guys are losing the, they're losing the back end a little bit more often. The tires are going out.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about it at the end of qualifying. This is a track which definitely uses up a lot of your tires compared to the last few tracks we've been to. And we can clearly see now drivers starting to struggle quite a lot. Enrique will be struggling even more since he's front wing, and he must be very, very lucky, because I think
the front rear wing and the floor look. Actually, I think the floor is safe, but the entire right side of that car, front and rear, is really messed up. I do not see any floor damage, though, but he is understeering a lot. And here comes Jamie on the inside. Gets past him.
James will come towards Enrique and to get past. He's lucky enough to continue, but that would have been definitely much worse.
Yeah, that car could have been upside down, completely just wrecked out of this race, but it is still in a drivable manner. Here is that replay again. You see him just correcting the steering angle a little bit. That caught a wrong bump, got the car aired, was fighting with it, and unfortunately could not control the Renault right there.
Yeah, sometimes when the car snaps loose like that, there's not a lot of driver able to catch that without having major issues. Unfortunately, racing doesn't give you a lot of chances to recover the car once you go so sideways. As we are now on following Paul Hilbrink, who I thought actually before might have to defend from Samborski, but he just posted his fastest lap and the fastest lap of the race too, with a 1:44.53. So definitely a very good drive from the driver from the Netherlands.
Yeah, Paul Ilbrink using his DRS that lap, put on a great time, and now both of them are closing down on Robert Tarleton ahead of them.
Yeah, I think it's still too little of a gap for Hilbrink every lap. He definitely needs a mistake.
Oh, I thought we were in slow motion right there, but at the top of our screen we saw Omar Baha just getting very sideways, pulled out a double lockup, and well, he saved it from ending up in the wall. But that was a dramatic scene as James Byrne gets past Jason Enrique.
Yeah, Enrique obviously going backwards with that heavy damage. You can see his lap time being consistently slower than the competition. As Hilbrink, yes, closed down the gap to 3 seconds, but it's still too far away from Robert Tarleton. These two are keeping the same distance, more or less, for the last few laps. So it's gonna take something major to shake up the order here on the podium. Instead, in the midfield, things seem to be a little bit more open, as Jamie Byrne just passed Roccatello for 8th place.
Yeah, Roccatello had his mind cleared for a little bit, and here is how that happened. He just tried cutting the course a little bit, got caught out on the grass. Big slide, and then around goes James, and he stays behind Enrique as Jamie gets right beside Roccatello and sped right by him.
Yeah, you can see how the drivers are struggling. These top drivers in front do not seem at all to suffer this tire wear. They are incredibly consistent. In the midfield, we start to see a bit of shenanigans, people starting to lose control of their car on entrance or exit, as Robert Tarleton is approaching now the hairpin for the second to last time, and on the background we saw, unfortunately, a yellow Formula Renault 3.5 of James Pinsker, who I think just gave up on the race.
Yeah, he's been sitting there for a while. He already has front wing damage from a previous incident. And was that same corner that he had that and it's the exact same incident.
Oh yeah.
You're not seeing a replay. He did it twice.
Today is the second time I see a similar incident in the same corner by the same driver after the 6-hour endurance race we broadcasted this afternoon. I thought I was seeing the same replay, but in the end it was the same mistake made by the same driver 1 lap later. You don't see it very often, as Robert Tarleton is getting the white flag in a few seconds.
Yeah, the last time where I've seen a car have an incident at exactly the same corner with the exactly same crash is outside of my practice, me practicing any car at any track, is Valtteri Bottas at the Turkish Grand Prix. As Tarleton sets the fast lap. Nope, Ilbrink sets the fast lap. No, Samborski took the fast lap. It's white flag in the air. Tarleton leads out Ilbrink and Samborski close behind him.
Yeah, definitely these guys are using all the DRS available in these final laps. Still side-by-side racing for 10th with Enrique trying to pass Byrne, but Enrique is having also damage. Byrne recovering from the mistake made early on. But let's keep an eye on this battle because Samborski is 6 tenths behind Sebring. I think it's a bit too far, but everything will depend obviously on the famous DRS and if Paul Sebring kept at least one DRS for the end of the race. I'd be surprised if he didn't do so.
Yeah, it definitely is a surprising thing they did not have DRS at the end of this race, but really not a lot of places to activate DRS here. So this would be the only spot to do it. Let's see if Sebring launches DRS now. Sebring does not have DRS. You see him weaving inside and outside. Samborski, though, he has DRS. Samborski closing in on Sebring as Tarleton has one corner to go, about 1,000 more bumps to go. Robert Tarleton is going to take it flag to flag here at Sebring, followed by Paul Sebring across the line and Samborski in third place. And Robert Tarleton, grand slam, fastest lap, led every lap, pole position, winner.
Boy, what a race for Tarleton, definitely a great day for him as we watch the battle for 11th. Enrique with a lot of damage on his car, having to defend from Russell. Tries to
go for the over-under. Enrique, though, defending very well. Russell ran out of speed mid-corner. Can he get him off the exit? It's going to be a drag race, but Enrique is going to limp across the line ahead of Shane Russell. We got a battle for 14 between Josh Clogg and Dave Martin. Oh, very
blocking.
That was a block. Oh, we might see a little bit of feisty here, a little bit of switchback move from Dave Martin. I don't think Martin would be happy about that.
Oh, definitely not. Unfortunately, this is not NASCAR, where everything is legal, more or less. But that was definitely a very, very late move by Clogg.
It seems like something that I would do in the F1 2020 games on Lewis Hamilton, but this isn't F1 2020, this is iRacing. Robert Tarleton takes the Grand Slam and the victory, finishing up in first, followed by Paul Sebring, Samborski, Steve Honad, Fabio DeCarmo, Theodore Burns, Phil Reed, Jamie Byrne, Alessandro Roccatello, James Byrne, Jason Enrique, Shane Russell, Omar Baja, Josh Clogg, Dave Martin, and James J.P. with Luke Group at the end of the grid. And we're standing by with, I believe, his first Grand Slam victory. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robert Tarleton.
Hey guys.
Robert, how is that race, and congrats on the Grand Slam?
I'd say it went, apart from a couple of mistakes, as smooth as I could have hoped for. This week, there's been a lot of fast drivers, so I was really worried about having pressure the whole race because this track is just extremely bumpy. And yeah, for the first, I'd say like half of the race, Samborski was just like right. I couldn't break him. He went up to like maybe 1.5 seconds, but then just closed the gap, and I was really worried it was just going to be a whole race like that. I didn't really see what happened, but I think he might have made a mistake through like turn 1 or the beginning of the lap or something.
It was a lockup, and he took the escape road Joker route through Hotel.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely say I've done that before, but yeah, I definitely say congratulations to anyone who finished that race without spinning out or crashing, because it's a really bumpy track.
It is, and it's a very odd track, especially for these Formula 3.5 cars. Talk about your week of practicing and preparation for this race.
Yeah, so with this one, it's definitely a bit of a fine line because you're just trying to balance. You're trying to balance like setting up a car that's somewhat forgiving and handles the bumps, but then the grid here is just so competitive that if you do that, if you do too much of that, then someone else is going to beat you. So you're trying to make the car forgiving, but then also get it balanced enough that you can still be competitive. And so yeah, you really want to make the car as balanced as possible, but then as you go over the bumps, then you just risk spinning out. So yeah.
Well, you managed your car very well. You managed those tires and everything. You pulled out a Grand Slam pole position, led every lap, and on the last lap, you snuck away with the fastest lap of the race of a 1:43.96. Robert, congrats on all of that. Before I let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely should thank my girlfriend Heidi. She's been really supportive and, letting me race every Saturday morning for the last, I guess, 10, 11 weeks. So big thanks to her. And then you guys for the great broadcast, and Samborski as well for, he had great pace this week. Definitely unfortunate mistake, but yeah.
Well, congrats, Robert. We'll see you next week at Barcelona Historic for the finale of the Formula 3.5 Championship, as Alessandro is standing by with Paul Ilbrink.
Yes, Paul, how are you doing? A very linear race for you today here at SIB. You started third, you finished second. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, I don't know. Got a good result with finishing second, I guess, but I didn't have the feeling that I was in control of the car really at this track. I struggled so much in certain sectors at the track compared to Eddie, etc. So when he gifted me the second place after his mistake in the hairpin, I was convinced that he would catch me and overtake me again. But yeah, I got some decent laps in at the end, so it was just enough to stay in second. So well done to him on his pace, but I'm happy that I could stay in front of him.
Yeah, I think there weren't a lot of drivers actually being able to control their car on this track. It's such a bumpy and hefty track on the suspensions that it's so difficult, especially with worn tires, to control the car. Did you need to do any adjustments to your setup to make the car a little more easier on the bumps for this race?
No, I didn't really spend any time on setup, to be honest. So I just stepped in and drove. But I normally like the track a lot, but I don't know, I kind of struggled, and yeah, just happy I made it to the finish today.
Oh, sure you do. It's a very, very tough track. So next week we are going to Barcelona. We are going to the historic layout of Barcelona, so no chicanes at the end. Are you looking forward to the track?
Very much forward to driving the chicanes and driving around those chicanes, because they're like horrible. So yeah, hopefully some of the quick guys aren't pushy there as well, and they show up again. And yeah, I hope we have a good race then.
Anybody you would like to thank before we let you go?
Sure. I want to thank you guys for doing a nice broadcast. My teammates, the Radicals Online, and partners and sponsors: Armor Centrum, Cranfield Simulation, Track Racer, Joe Real Timing, Turn Racing, MLATF Podcasts, Exciteways, and Pixel Dust. And a special thanks to my internet provider for not cutting the connection today. So that was good.
Absolutely. Without them, you wouldn't be able to take part in this. So thank you, Paul, and see you next week.
See ya.
Well, we have now here with us Edward Samborski. Austin, I think it's right beside you.
Yes, Eddie is right beside me. Started up on the front today, and well, had chances for the lead, then a few mistakes here and there, but you brought it out with a good fight for third place. Edward, how was that race?
Honestly, I'm just happy I didn't crash the car. It was very windy and it was hot, so a lot of the exits of the corners you couldn't be full throttle. So I was pushing like crazy in braking zones and entry, trying to make up the time. And when I locked up, the first thing I thought was, oh no, I did it again. And then I saw that giant piece of road in front of me. I was like, this is amazing. Then I was like, oh, all right, you still got to do a hairpin. So I did that. And I was looking to the right and I saw the cones and I was like, oh no. Do you go around them? Do you go in the grass? Do you go through them? So I figured just hit them full bore and hope they don't clip. And oh, they didn't. So it's Thanksgiving week, so I guess it's fitting for me to be very thankful I didn't have to drive a race with a cone in my wing.
Yeah, the cone stayed away from your car, and well, we call it the cone missile this week. Speaking that you just destroyed one of those as you went on the old racetrack. But hey, a third place, a podium finish, and a good result for you. Talk about the difficulties of this track. We found out a common theme that everyone's just been struggling to keep their car glued to the tarmac.
Well, if you compromise with the setup and make the car easier to drive over the bumps and whatnot, then it's just slow. So you're kind of stuck dealing with the car being set up where it's not so friendly over the bumps. But by doing that, you require yourself to carry speed. And if you're trying to carry speed, you need to keep the tires on the ground. So it's this constant catch-22 all lap where you're just like, you know, can I go faster? I don't know. I think I can. I wouldn't try it. Well, maybe you should. You're losing time. And that's all you do the whole race for 35 minutes. You know,
this is why I'm not a race mechanic or I don't build setups. I cannot think that fast.
Well,
But
yeah, and then
I certainly have a giant appreciation for everyone who's all 17 of you today who were able to figure that one out.
I was, you know, and I was really trying to get to P4 in the championship, so I put a solid effort in to get the win. But oh yeah, them guys are fast, man. You know, they don't give you anything.
Well, you got 1 week to go before we head to Barcelona. What are you looking forward to about that race?
I think with the improvement that iRacing made to our tire model, I think it's actually going to be a proper Barcelona race. And what I mean by that is the previous seasons, you had to tiptoe through the exit of the corner because your tires got hot and you just lose all grip. So as opposed to last season where it was basically racing in Monaco, and in a sense where it's just follow the leader, I think now you might actually see people be able to take slightly different lines and following without having as much difficulty as the past seasons. But it's a great track. It should be good fun.
All right, some excitement to look forward to next week. Before I let you go, anyone you want to thank?
I didn't think about this beforehand. I will thank Fanatec Wheels, my internet service provider, and you guys for putting on a good show as always.
All right, thank you, man, and yeah, have a great afternoon. Alessandro, any closing words?
Well, definitely today we had a very nice race, completely different from what we used to last week at Watkins Glen. It is been definitely a tough week for all these drivers around Sebring, and I also would like to thank them for providing us a great show here on Apex Racing TV, because this track is really, really tough to tame if we can copy that famous quote from Darlington in NASCAR. So it's not that easy. Absolutely big kudos to them, and thanks for giving us such a blast today.
It was a blast of a race for round 11 of 12 here in the Formula 3.5 Challenge. Next week, we end the season back in 1994. We head over to Circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya Historic, to end out the Formula 3.5 Challenge. I've been joined by Alessandro Daldone with Marco Barbonera in the production booth. I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a great night.